The way the world is today, and as you've been listening to the news, things are out of control. And for no reason. There isn't even an issue. Not like there are two sides. There are no sides. It's just out of control. So it makes it very clear that we're not missing anything. Back in the 60s, they were saying the world is overpopulated, shortage of water, shortage of wheat, shortage of air. It's not true. We got too much food. We've got plenty of everything. We don't need more money. We don't need more military. We don't need more politics. We don't need more science. The only thing we need more of is goodness. If the food we have would be distributed, nobody would be hungry. If medicine didn't have any agendas and any biases, there'd be cures for everything. And even science has its biases. So if we simply were decent and honest and concerned with the welfare of the world can be perfect. Really perfect. So all we're missing is a little bit of moral leadership. So it turns out that today, unlike a generation ago, the problems, the evils in the world are simply a result of neglect. There's no idealism. There's nothing to work towards, there's nothing to look up to, so we deteriorate. And for no reason. Boredom. So there's a study, came out just last week, I think, in England. People between the ages of 16 and 29 were surveyed. 89% said they had no purpose for living. That is so scary. If you don't have a purpose for living, you're a dangerous person. Then what do you care? You'll kill a couple of people, you'll kill yourself. So the problems of today is not bad ideas, evil desires. It's simply a lack of purpose, a lack of direction, a lack of clarity. So what do we need? We need moral leadership. That's Mashiach. Mashiach means a moral voice, a Jewish descendant of King David, who will inspire people to get back to making the world good, because that's all that's missing. So it takes three things to visualize the messianic world. The first thing is Jews have to take a leadership position. I mean, you can see without too much commentary, the religions of the world are not doing well. And they're almost desperate to hear the Jewish view, because they're giving up on their own. They're disillusioned. So the coming of Mashiach would mean Jews all over the world are inspired to be Jewish. Secondly, human beings are inspired to live in peace. And number three, the natural order of the world can produce so much wealth that we won't have to work 7 days a week. Maybe not at all. Those are the three principles that constitute the belief in Mashiach. What would it take? What would it take to have all Jews excited about being Jewish? It's been 3,000 years. What more? What would it take for all human beings to live in peace? And what would it take for the earth to produce such wealth, such resources, that we wouldn't have to work? So let's start with the earth. If we can harness solar energy, you wouldn't have to work anymore. If airplanes can fly on solar energy, if buildings can be heated by solar energy, if factories can run on solar energy, everything in the world would be cheap. What does it cost to fly across the Atlantic if you take away the fuel? If you don't need fuel, what does it cost? A couple of bags of peanuts? You got to pay the pilot? What? You could fly for $20, and they would make money. If a factory could run for free, no fuel, and what would it do for the environment? Sunshine, that's what it would do. So why haven't we harnessed solar energy? Because of politics. Because not everybody wants it. So first of all, not too much research is put into it. And those who do put in research are silenced. They can't get to first base. I mean, Tesla, he had to fight and claw his way into, they try to stop him. So, the world is rich enough, nature is rich enough to provide for us, and we wouldn't have to work. What will it take for all people to want to live in peace? Let's take the Soviet Union as an example. How long did it take to dismantle communism? 20 minutes? Gorbachev got up and said, you know, it's not working. It's not working. And then it was over. All right, there were some problems as to who's going to run the show. But basically, all he said was, hey, who are we kidding? It's not working. It's a bad idea. And that's it. Communism was gone. It's very encouraging. If religions would do the same thing, get up and say, hey, people, this is not working. We've got a bloody history. We've caused way too many wars, too much corruption going on, the abuse of power. You want to go down with the ship, or you want to be a hero? Gorbachev decided, this ship is going down. I'm not going down with it. So he wasn't a tzaddik. He didn't suddenly become holy. It was a very rational decision. Am I going to be the last dictator who goes down in flames? I don't want to be that. So instead, he became a hero. Every religion has millions, if not billions, of followers. What will it take for somebody to get up and say, come on, God, what are we doing? Who are we kidding? That's it. The world would be at peace. And what would it take for Jews to be excited about Judaism? If all those religions say, you know, the original plan is still the best. So let's stop trying to improve on the Torah. Let's just go with it. Every Jew will be excited about being Jewish. So not only is it realistic, it's shocking that a day goes by and this doesn't happen. It's unnatural for it not to happen. So when it does happen, will it be a miracle? Or will it be like, what took you so long? When communism collapsed, everybody said, what a miracle. But all those in the communist country said, this had to last 70 years? You couldn't have exposed the bluff like 10 years ago. It's the same thing, nothing changed. How did you keep it going for 70 years? That's the idea of Mashiach. Now, would it be surprising if a Jewish leader developed a voice, international, for his wisdom, and the whole world would accept his teachings? Would that be strange? Is that a little unbelievable? Not so long ago, there was a Jewish guy named, what was his name? He was doing diplomatic shuttling from one country to another, including Arab countries, and everybody said he's the smartest guy in the world. And for a moment, it looked like he was going to bring peace to the world. What am I talking about? I'll remember in a minute.
Recent is that?
In the 60s, 70s. Turned out he wasn't quite that smart, and after a while it kind of fell apart. Nobody was surprised that the world was willing to listen. Nobody said, what, a Jew? No, it almost made sense to the world. Of course a Jew. The world is perfectly comfortable with that. Everybody is. I get phone calls. Like this guy calls up and says, my father just passed away. What's the right thing to do to honor his... So I said, well, which synagogue do you belong to? He said, no, I'm not Jewish. I said, okay, so what does your church say? He says, I know what my church says. I want to know what's the right thing. So he calls a rabbi. This is not unusual. It turns out that we really are the last hope. Like in Korea, everybody is learning Gemara. The most popular book in Korea now is the Talmud. And you go online, you hear these little Chinese kids, 8, 9-year-old kids. They're chanting the Torah with the tune in Hebrew, by heart. Something's happening. We are still a little timid. Yeah, who's going to listen to us? You know, we're the only ones left saying anything. So we really have to get over our bashfulness or our inferiority complexes. You got something to say it. The world is desperate to hear it. So one of the subjects that the world is really desperate about is marriage. Identity, male, female. What's going on? What's going on? I was speaking at some conference of rabbis, and we're all talking about continuity. Remember, everybody's concerned with Jewish continuity. And they all have these plans, and I said, whoa. Continuity means you continue what was. Don't keep making up stuff. You make up stuff and then say, where's the continuity? Continuity means you do what your grandfather did, what his grandfather did, and what his grandfather did. That's continuity. So one of the rabbis said, whoa, why are you dismissing all the women? Why'd you say grandfather and not grandmother? It's a little old-fashioned, isn't it? I said, you're so behind the times. My grandfather was a woman. How dare you assume? And he had nothing to say, which is the scary part. It's like, yeah, right. Yeah. This is crazy. And what does it lead to? It leads to a terrible aloneness. It is shocking. I do marriage counseling, and I expect people to come for marriage counseling because they hate each other. I mean, that's the least you can do. If you're going to get divorced, at least hate each other. No, they're fine. So what's your problem? The problem is they're happily married or successfully married, but they each feel totally alone in the world. And it's a horrible feeling. Now, that's not supposed to happen when you're married. The one thing that marriage is supposed to cure is that feeling of aloneness. It's not curing it. As a result, people are suicidal. Successful people. In England, they opened a department in the Ministry of Health to deal with the problem of loneliness, because it's costing, they've got socialized medicine there. It's costing them a fortune. When you feel alone, your immune system crashes, and you become vulnerable to all sorts of stuff, and then they have to pay for it. So they're looking for a cure for loneliness so that people wouldn't get sick so easily. In fact, there's this popular song back from the 70s, Piano Man. Anybody remember Piano Man? Yeah, you know the words? They're sharing a drink they call loneliness, but it's better than drinking alone. That's a brilliant line. What it's saying is, loneliness is not the problem. Aloneness, much worse. Because loneliness you can share. Get a bunch of lonely people together, and they commiserate, and they share a drink called loneliness. But then they go home. Not to more loneliness, to total aloneness. And that's a killer. That's worse than loneliness. The only cure for that has been marriage. Because even if you have a great relationship with your parents, you're alone in the world. Yeah, you can call them in an emergency, but your life and their lives, separate. You are not number one to your parents because they have each other, hopefully. If they don't have each other, you're certainly not number one. At best, you're number 3, or 4, or 6. And with your children also, the same thing. You're not one with your children, you're one with each other. The child is number 3. The only relationship in which you are really number 1 is a marriage, if it works. And that's why the Torah says, therefore should a man leave his mother and father, cleave to his wife, and become one. Leave your mother and father. Why? Why can't you stay and be one with them? It's not one. You may be their biggest pleasure in life, but you're not one. Your life and their life are separate. And that's why when you're married, your obligation to honor your parents is put on the back burner, because your marriage comes first. So what happened to marriage that all of a sudden it's not producing that oneness, that togetherness? It may sound a little strange, but it's true. The thing that is ruining and destroying marriages is love. You go for marriage counseling, and the average typical marriage counselor will say, you got to get the love back. You have to love each other. Love will keep you together. All you really need is love. And all those other songs. It's not working. In fact, love is destroying marriage. Is that shocking? Love is destroying everything. Love is destroying Christianity. God is love. Right? That's the Christian. If God is love, it means that love is God. You're not worshiping God anymore. You're worshiping love. And they always had love goddesses. That's what we have today. We worship love. It's like, God is love. And if he wasn't, well, then we don't need him. We just want the love. For other religions that will remain nameless, God is power. God is almighty, God is powerful. In other words, you're worshiping power. So let's break it down to a simple analysis. A man says to a woman, I want to marry you for your money. And she has money. Is that offensive?
Strategic.
Logical. Is it offensive? Yes. So most women say, "Oh, no, that's not. What if she loses her money?" That's your problem. I mean, as long as she has money, it's good? No, it's not. Look, if I say, I want to marry you for your money, do you hear what I'm saying? What I'm saying is, can you just give me the money? Can I just have the money without marrying you? Because that's all I want. But that's not realistic, right? Okay, I'll marry you. It is so insulting. It's so degrading. It's like, you got to pay a price. Nothing's perfect in this world, so I'm going to have to marry you for the money. Besides, it's really not even, I'm not marrying you. I'm marrying the money. So what happens if the money is gone? Not only don't I want to be married to you, I don't know what you're doing in my house. Whoever invited you? It was just the money. Without the money, what are you doing here? So what's better? I'll marry you for love. It's not better. It's exactly the same thing. If I say I want to marry you for love, what I'm saying is, can I just have the love? I don't want to put up with your opinion and your moods and your shtick. Just give me the love and shut up. That's what has happened to marriage. We marry the love, not the person. The person is too messy, too complicated, too different. Because men are from Mars. I mean, heard. So if you're from Mars and I'm from Venus, or I'm from Venus and you're from Mars, like, what are we doing together? Oh, love. Right. We both want love. We don't want each other. We just want the love we can take from each other. So if the love is gone, what are you doing in my house? Who invited you? Love is destroying everything. You go for counseling for your children. Your children are unhappy, they're miserable, they're acting out. You have to love them. I do love them. No, you have to love them more. I love them a lot. Not enough. It's not working. It's not working. You tell children you love them and they hate you. Why? Because it sounds like a condition. You're welcome to stay because I love you. In other words, if you stop loving me, it's over. That's like a fiddler on the roof. As insecure as a fiddler on the roof. You're in a bad mood, I'm finished. I'm out. Only by the grace of your love am I welcome into your house. Without the love, nothing. In fact, we're so crazy about this thing. We don't just want love, we want unconditional love. There's nothing more perverted than that. You know what unconditional love means? Every kid understands it intuitively. Parents say, I love you no matter what. And the kid says, oh, so I don't count. Doesn't matter what I do. You already decided you're going to love me, so I can be good, bad, ugly, it doesn't matter. Thank you very much. They hate it. The more you love your children unconditionally, the harder they will try to make you hate them. Because they want you to notice them. You take a look through entire Torah. Does God ever say, I love you? Once. The rest of the time, he's angry at us. You're impossible, I can't put up with you, you never listen, you don't trust me. One time, he said, you're not chosen because you're bigger and smarter, you're chosen because I love you. That's it, the only time it's mentioned. So what is unconditional? A mother should say to her children, I am your mother, unconditionally. That's true. It is unconditional, because no matter what she does, she can't stop being the mother. So why is that unconditional? Because it's a fact. Emotions cannot be unconditional. You can't say, I love you unconditionally, then it's not an emotion anymore. It's not love, it's a fixation. Love is an emotion, which means a response to you. So if you're lovable, I respond. If you're hateful, I respond. But if you're hateful and I love you, that's twisted. It's not love. It's like this total forgiveness. No matter what anybody does, you have to forgive. Did they ask for forgiveness? No. Then who are you forgiving? It's not forgiveness. It's indifference. I don't care. That's not forgiveness. Forgiveness means I know what you did, I am angry and hurt, but I allow you the right to continue to exist. But, yeah, whatever. I forgive. That is so meaningless. So unconditional love does not exist. An emotion changes from time to time. That's what an emotion is. So where does a kid get his security from? Not from his parents' love. That's unstable. You get your security from the fact that your parents are always your parents. So if a mother says, I am always your mother, unconditionally, what that means is, I am your mother so unconditionally, I'm your mother even when I hate you. And I hate you, but I'm your mother. That's stability. God is saying to us, you are my people. Did I say I love you? No, you get on my nerves. You're impossible to deal with. Other people are so much more religious than you. But you are mine, I am yours. Unconditional. Some religious guy said to me, you know, you used to be the members of the covenant, but God took it from you and gave it to us. I said, keep it. A covenant that you can take away and give to somebody else isn't worth the paper it's written on. That's not a covenant. That's moody. A covenant means unconditional. We're stuck with each other. Might as well make the best of it. But do I love you? Not right now. So in a marriage, it's not love that gives it its stability and its permanence and takes away that feeling of aloneness. It's something much stronger. We belong to each other. That's a fact, that's unconditional, and that will remain even when there's no love. And as long as you're stuck with each other and it's going to be forever, you might as well love each other. So love, properly understood, is not important or significant. Love is the appropriate emotion for someone who is important and significant. But what makes them important and significant? Well, if it's your mother, pretty important. Your child, pretty important. Even your fellow Jew. You share the same blood, the same soul, the same ancestors, pretty significant. That's why you hate each other. Sibling rivalry. Why does it bother Jews when other Jews act strangely? When other non-Jewish nations act strangely, it doesn't bother us. In fact, we respect their difference. This guy in Israel says, I hate those Orthodox, ultra-Orthodox people. Hate them. So why? Look at the way they dress. What is this, the 18th century? Can't they dress like normal people? Hate it. Have any Arab friends? Oh, sure. Did you notice how they dress? Like the 4th century? Oh no, that's their tradition. Oh. What is that? The Arabs can dress the way they want to dress. It's not my problem. Gesundheit. Go ahead, wear your thing. But if you're my cousin, you're my brother-in-law, you're my uncle, dress like a mensch, for Pete's sake. You're making it embarrassing me, right? So the discomfort, the hatred, actually comes from the relationship. You're significant in my life, so I hate the way you do things. And that's why in a marriage, you can go one of two ways. A man says, I love everything about my wife. Sounds nice? Let's assume it's true. Not likely, but let's assume it's true. He loves everything about her. She wants a divorce. I said, wait a minute, something's fishy here. You love everything about her and she wants a divorce? So I asked the husband, You love everything about your wife? He says, yeah. I said, do you love her? He said, I love everything about her. I said, no, not about her. Do you love her? He says, what about her? I said, nothing about her. Do you love her? He says, I don't know what you're talking about. If you take all the things about her away, what's left? This is scary. And so common. Most people would say that. Hey, if you take everything away, what's left? Whoa. Everybody sooner or later says, why can't you just accept me for who I am? It's a human need. Accept me for who I am. My problem with that is, I would accept you for who you am. I don't know who you am. Can you tell me who you am? No, you can't. So what do you want me to do? You're saying, accept me for who I am beyond all things. I said, okay, so who are you beyond all things? Me. Well, I don't understand what that means. What is this me? So if a man says, I love your looks, I love your intelligence, I love your sense of humor, I love your personality, I love your values, I love your style, I love everything about you. There's no oneness. She's alone in the world. He's enjoying all the benefits of being married to her, but he's not married to her. He's married to the looks, to the money, to the personality, to everything else, just not her. That is painful. And religion does the same thing. We love God's kindness, we love His power, we love His infinity, we love it. Do you love Him? Well, who's Him? So imagine you say to God, I'll worship you, I'll believe in you, I'll pray to you, because I want to go to heaven. Is that like saying I want to marry you for your money? If you say I want to go to heaven, you're saying, can I just get into heaven? Why do you have to make everything so complicated? All I want is heaven. Let me into heaven. What do you have to have, 613 commandments? All right, fine. I'll do it as long as I can get it. It is so insulting. It's so... So you love Him for His love? You love Him for His power? What about Him? So what is Him? Do you love me for me? See, this is what happens in every marriage. The wife says, I'm not happy. I'm not sure that you're there for me. And every husband says, well, what do you need? Whatever you want. She says, never mind. He says, what never mind? You just started an argument. Tell me what it is you want, I'll do it. I'll do anything. She says, never mind. You don't understand. What don't I understand? Can't explain it. So women get together and they say, men just don't get it. And the men get together and say, women just want to drive you crazy. She starts an argument. I say, I'll do whatever you want. She says, never mind. What is that about? So the problem is, nobody knows. What is a person if you take all things away? So you can get spiritual about it and say, well, they're soul mates. Their souls are one. It was one soul divided into male and female, and when they marry, they just reunite, which is true. In fact, it's the definition of marriage. Marriage means a reunion. A man and a woman get together, fall in love, get married. That's not a marriage. That's a union, which could be very nice, but call it something else because it's not a marriage. Marriage means a reunion, which is a magical thing. How did these two parts of the soul meet each other? They grew up on different sides of the ocean, different families, different backgrounds, and yet they find each other. It's amazing. That's marriage. A reunion. But everybody else can create a union and they can live happily ever after. But it's not a marriage because it's not a reunion. So you can say, when your soul mates and you share a common soul, that's what makes you one. So generally when you talk to religious people, you say, do you love each other just for who you are? They say, yeah, I just love the soul. If you loved the soul, you could have stayed in heaven. You didn't have to get separated to come down here to find each other. Stay in heaven, be one soul, and enjoy. There's an interesting phenomenon going on, and I think it's messianic. It's really the future. How were you raised? What were you told when you were growing up? You got to eat with a fork. Stop eating with your hands. Don't be an animal. Get good grades. You have to go to school. You have to get up. You're late. You got to go. You got to put your things away. You got to take care of your things. You got to learn to tie your own shoes. You have to, you have to, you have to. You got to graduate. You got to get a job. You got to make money. You got to pay the bills. You got to pay the taxes. You got to pay the mortgage. I hate it. Everybody hates it. Then you listen to the commercials. Ever listen to a commercial? It's so depressing. Every commercial said, you gotta have one of these. You have a little tickle in your nose, oh, you gotta take this medicine. It'll kill you, but you gotta take it. You hear those commercials? Take this medicine for your hay fever. If you experience chest pains, stop taking it immediately. You're dying. Okay, but now order and get a free bottle. We'll kill you for free. It's unbelievable that they can actually, 5 minutes worth of warnings. You may get a stroke, you may get a heart attack, you may go blind. But what are you waiting for? Order now. What is going on with our brains? Because you have to have a good summer. If you have allergies, it ruins your summer. So you have to have. So what do commercials sell? 2 things: health and pleasure. You got to have. So your mother tells you what you have to do. The commercials tell you what you have to have. So you decide, I can't take this anymore. I'm going for therapy. You know what happens when you go for therapy? You go in there saying, I have anxiety. I feel a lot of pressure. And the therapist says, no. That's just your surface problem. What you really need is to patch up your relationship with your mother because she hates you. She's always hated you. And your brother, you're so jealous of your brother because he was the favorite. And then you have so much guilt because you did something when you were 3. So you have many more problems than you think you have, and you got to fix them all. Can't get away from this? So you decide to go to religion. Well, guess what the religion tells you? You think you have problem in this world? Wait till you die. Oh, unless you fix that. So now you have to, and it worked. Like for 5,000 years this worked. Yeah, I have to. Come on, I need a job. I need a job. I need a degree. I need some money. Today, people woke up and said, you know what? I don't need anything. I don't need anything. Leave me alone. Like this guy who's suing his parents for giving birth to him. You heard about it, yeah? He's a 27-year-old guy in India. He took his parents to court. He said, you gave birth to me without consulting me. So why should I pay the bills? You pay the bills for the rest of my life. You know, it's starting to make sense. This is a scary thought, right? I didn't ask to be born. You decided to have me, and I have to pay the bills? How did that happen? What do you mean I have to go to school? I don't have to. You didn't ask me if I want to be born. I don't want to be born. So why do I have to pay the bills? That is so logical. It's scary. Did you ask to be born? Did anybody consult with you? We don't ask to be born. In fact, we resist. Why don't we ask to be born? This is just getting worse and worse. We don't ask to be born because we don't need to be. We don't need to be born. It's like a ridiculous. You're born into this world. If you behave yourself, you can go back to where you came from. Well, thank you very much. If you don't behave yourself, oh, then you're going to hell. What kind of deal is this? Did I ask for this? So if I didn't ask for it and I didn't make it happen, why do I have to pay the bills? And not just the financial bills. Why do I have to be moral? Why do I have to make a life? Why do I... What? All the burdens on me? I didn't even ask for this. Is this bad news or good news? It's such good news. The pressure is off of you. You don't have to. You don't need any of this. What a relief. Well, if you didn't ask, and you don't need this, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? Say, well, my parents gave birth to me without asking. Somebody gave birth to them without asking. They're in the same predicament. So they're thinking, I have to pay my children's bills? I didn't even ask to be born. So I have to pay my bills and theirs? No, you pay your own bills. And it just keeps going back and back. Where does it all begin? It is so awesome. It's so true. We don't need anything. We don't need anything, including life. Because nobody asked me if I want to live. I don't. I mean, I'm suicidal? No. Just facts. I don't need life. You know, I'm afraid of death, but that's childish. So if a kid, and kids are saying it, you tell a kid to put his toys away, and he says, I didn't ask to be born. Now I have to put away toys? So, of course, the parents rush him off to a psychiatrist and put him on Zoloft, right? He's obviously depressed. No, he's not. That's the scary thing. He's not depressed. He's enlightened. So if your kid ever says to you in the future, I didn't ask to be born, you should say, well, neither did I. Nobody asks to be born. That's not what it's about. I mean, listen to this. It's not about you. It was never about you. So what do you mean you have to? You don't have to anything. But there's a creator. You're right. You didn't create yourself. You didn't create the world. You didn't create jobs. You didn't nothing. It's not your fault. God created the world. So who has to? Who needs? He does. You don't need because you didn't create yourself or the world. So what do you need? You don't need anything. You're a guest. He created the world. He needs you. You see how this turns everything upside down? Religion has become so destructive. God is perfect, you're in trouble. You need help. Oh, thank you very much. And I'm supposed to love him for that? He creates me, gives me problems, and then says, if you ever need help, just call on me. I'll help you out. I said, thank you. This is a vicious plan. You create me with problems so that I depend on you? That's so nasty. You're supposed to love God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might? Yes, because if you don't, you're going to go to hell. So this is really a pleasant, I love this. He creates you into a miserable world with problems as long as your arm, and then says, you better love me or I'll... Who wants this? Who thought this up? This is weird. So what's the truth? It is so simple. It's He created the world. He's got problems. He's the creator. He wants something. So what are we doing here? We're here to help him. He needs us to help him fulfill his need, his plan, his desire. It's all his. The pressure is on him, not on us. How did it get turned around? How did it become, he's sitting up there in heaven having a cocktail on a beach chair, and he's looking down at us struggling and saying, try your best. If you're really desperate, come to me. I'll save you. From what? From the problems I gave you. We're sitting on the beach chairs, and he is desperate. It's been 5,779 years, and his plan is not complete. His plan, his need, his whatever. But if he created the world, how did it become my responsibility? It's his responsibility. He needs, like the environmentalists, we must fix this world. We must clean up the oceans. We must clean up the air. We must? It's not my planet. Why do I have to take care of it? Well, it's not your planet, so you can't destroy it. Ooh, that's true. So whose planet is it? We are ready for Mashiach. We're very ready. We are ready because we recognize for the first time probably in history that it's not about me. The world has a creator. He needs. I don't need anything. Well, one thing. I need to know what he needs from me. That's all. So here's the sum of the whole thing. For all of history, we have been needy. We turn to God for our needs. We turn to government for our needs. We turn to science for our needs. We depended on money for our needs. We had all sorts of dependencies because we were so needy. What's going to happen when Mashiach comes? We won't be needy. We will feel needed. That's it. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if you stopped feeling needy, but know that you were needed? That's heaven. It's heaven. I have no needs, but I am necessary. That is such a perfect combination. And we're really close for the first time in history. But if we don't understand it and appreciate it, it leads us to suicide. I don't need this, I didn't ask for this, so I'm going to kill myself. If you don't need this and you didn't ask for it, then you are here for a much more important reason than your needs. So celebrate your presence here. You are indispensable to his responsibility. This makes sense? Now really. This is Judaism. It's not a religion. Religion means you need something from God. We don't. He needs something from us. So he gathered us to Mount Sinai, and he told us what he needs. So if you have 10 minutes and you can do something that he needs, what, you wouldn't do it? So I stop a guy in the street and say, would you like to put on tefillin? He says, I don't need that. I said, I know, so let's put them on. If you needed it, wouldn't be my issue. You need it, you do it. You don't need it. God needs it, so let's do it. This is not a burden on you. This is not your need. This is what you are needed for. That's a celebration. So one final story. I went to visit this kid in the Psych ward of a county hospital. He had tried to kill himself. And he's being held for observation. And it's a dangerous place. It's a psych ward, you know. Like, he's held for 48 hours. I can't imagine a 14-year-old kid. What are they deciding? Whether he should get the electric chair or go to a hospital? Obviously, he needs treatment. I don't know. But the adults there, that's the question. They're evaluating these people because they committed crimes, and they have to decide whether they're crazy or guilty. So they're really scary, dangerous people. So nobody's allowed to visit. And here this 14-year-old kid is there. His mother can't visit. It's a prison. You need clearance. You need all sorts of... Clergy can visit. And lawyers. So the mother calls me and asks me to go see the kid. So I go up his 6th floor in St. Paul. double barred doors, windows are barred, the nurses carry tasers. This is a scary... I get off the elevator, and 2 nurses are wrestling a guy to the floor, putting him in handcuffs. And all the others are standing around screeching like banshees. The place is really scary. I go off to the kid's room. He's lying there reading a book like he's in camp. He hears the screaming. It doesn't bother him. He's fine. I try to make some conversation. He's not interested. Doesn't look up. Does not bother to look up. I said, how are you doing? Your mother asked me to come see you. She's worried. She wants to know what's going on. What should I tell her? I keep trying and trying. He's not interested. Finally, he says, why don't you go home? The chaplain has already been here. The hospital chaplain visits everybody. I said, what did the chaplain say? He says, something stupid. I said, really, what did he say that was stupid? He said I shouldn't kill myself because God loves me. I said, that's stupid? He says, yeah. I said, I agree. I can't imagine God loves you. You're an obnoxious brat. He looks up. He looks up and he says, yeah. I said, God created you. He obviously needs you. You're a piece of the puzzle. There's something that only you can do for him. And so he created you. So he's stuck with you. I don't think he likes you. There's nothing to like. He says, well, what if I don't want to do what he created me for? I said, well, that's called freedom of choice. So are you taking a position? Are you saying you don't want to? Say something. Take a position. Anyway, it didn't go very far. But I gained something from it. I'm driving home and I realize I just discovered something amazing and important. We would much rather be needed than loved. What the chaplain said is not only stupid, it's offensive. And this kid was old enough, smart enough, to pick up on it. He tries to kill himself. It's a pretty loud statement. What is he telling you? I'm not necessary. I'm here, I'm not here, what's the difference? What, my mother will cry? She'll get over it. I'm not necessary. So he makes a loud statement, I don't feel necessary. The chaplain comes and says, yeah, but don't kill yourself because God loves you. Do you hear the insult? It's like, you're right, you're not necessary. But hang around because God loves you. He says, what am I, a pet? A gerbil? I'm not necessary but lovable? Sorry, that's stupid. And he's right. A person, a human being, needs to feel necessary, purposeful, not loved. Love is the whipped cream on top. But where's the cake? We need to be needed. That's all. The rest is just icing. So if we know what we're here for, that's all we need. Now, Viktor Frankl created a whole school of psychology based on this. If you know your purpose, you can survive anything. You don't have a purpose, you can't survive. Here's a perfect example. This kid felt unnecessary. So he tries to kill himself. Why not? Does he know his mother loves him? Yeah. But what does that have to do with my problem? My problem is I don't see any need for me to be here. So the chaplain says, you are unnecessary. But God is so nice, he loves you. Oh, good for him. Stupid. So when the parents are, devastated because their child tried to kill himself, but we love you so much, you're not talking to the problem. You're not talking to the issue. You're making it worse. How do we know that we are necessary? And how do we know what we are necessary for? That's the Torah. The Torah doesn't tell you how much God loves you. The Torah tells you what he needs you for. That's all we need to know. If we're nice, maybe he'll love us also, but who cares? That's just our need. His need is the real one. So what is freedom of choice, now that we've come down to it? Freedom of choice means very simply, you have the option of being needy or needed. You choose. Until recently, everybody chose to be needy. But well, I have to. I must. I gotta live. I gotta succeed. Oh, whoa, whoa. Now young people are saying, no, I don't. I don't have to succeed. I don't have to be good. I don't have to be here. What's our answer? What's our answer? Oh, but we love you. No, it's not an answer. God loves you. Not an answer. God needs his world to become perfect. And we hold the key. Because we have to be part of the world in order to fix the world. So we are part of the world, but we're smart enough to fix it. He can't. He can't. Because if he fixes it, then it's just heaven again. For the earth to become perfect, it has to come from the earth. Now, he could have made the world perfect. But then it would be heaven. He already created heaven. He could have made us all angels. He has angels. That doesn't work for him. If you really want to get to the heart of Judaism, God is the ultimate romantic. He created the world because he can't stand being alone. This makes sense to you? God is perfect. God is all-powerful, all-knowing, infinite, without end, eternal. And he creates a world. Come on. What did he create the world for? What does he stand to gain? He's already perfect. He's already all-knowing. He's already all-powerful. What can he gain? Don't you see the problem? There was just him. There was just him. Now, what's wrong with that? I don't know. I really don't know. But he can't stand it. So what did he create the world for? Not what, who. He created the world to have others besides him. Because just him, not enough. Even though he's perfect. But he's perfectly alone. So he created us with freedom of choice. Otherwise, we're just more of him. Like a marriage. We get separated, we find each other, marry, and become one again. But now it's an inclusive one, not an exclusive one. So when we say Hashem Echad, Shema Yisrael, it's the Jewish motto, it's the Jewish slogan. What are we saying? That there's only one God? Of course there's only one God. You can't have two infinities. Because where does one stop and the other begin? So of course there's only one God. We keep saying Hashem Echad, meaning God's purpose is to become one, like in a marriage. So what did he create the world for? He needed someone beside him. That's romantic.
You touched upon this a little bit. Judaism is not a religion. Being just be Jewish, not religious. Yeah.
Religion is a human invention. People heard about Judaism and came up with the idea of religions. But Judaism itself was never a religion. Because again, religion is the human need to reach God. But that can be so selfish. Like spiritual gluttony. Judaism was never our desire to reach God. It was his desire to come down to earth. Now I'm preparing the kitchen for Pesach. I don't know if you've ever seen what Passover preparations are. I had the sink torn out because I was replacing it. A new oven for Passover. Everything was covered with aluminum foil. It looked like a set for a futuristic movie or something. The non-Jewish neighbor comes in. He says, "Whoa, what happened?" I said, "We're getting ready for a holiday." He said, "What holiday?" I said, "Passover." He says, "Well, what happened on Passover?" I said, "That's when we came out of slavery." He says, "When was that?" See, we don't ask that. It's Pesach. He says, when was that? I said, about 3,300 years ago. He says, "Really? Time to get over it." You haven't been slaves in 3,000 years? Stop already. Isn't that a good one? But get over it. He says the United States gained its independence from England 200 years ago. This was 1976. He said 200 years ago. It's been 200 years, so fine, a firecracker and a hot dog. Enough already. It's such a good point. We don't even remember how to build a pyramid. We're not celebrating Passover because we're not slaves. We can't get over the fact that God came to take us out of Egypt. That's what the whole the Seder is all about. He came to, we were not looking for him. He came to us and said, Can we talk? No, not here. It's Mount Sinai. Meet me at Mount Sinai. We'll talk. Can't get over that. We shouldn't get over that. And before that, God comes to Avram. He was living where? In Mesopotamia. Where is that? Iraq? I think it was Iraq. So Avram is living in Iraq, minding his own business. God comes and says, leave this place, come with me. Can't get over that. He comes looking for us. That's not a religion. Unless you say God is religious. I don't know. If he's looking for us, that's not a religion. And if God comes and asks you for a favor and you do it, it's because you're religious or because you're sane. He asks you to do something, say, okay, I'll become religious. No, who's asking you to become religious? Just do me a favor. It's not a religion. And that's why Jews by nature are not the religious type. We're not. We're the worst at it. And God loves it. Like God says, make no graven images. 40 days later, what could be so terrible? And God says, you're impossible. And Moshe says, yeah, they're a stiff-necked people. Isn't that great? And God says, yeah, I guess. We're not religious. It's not in our DNA. We're rebellious, we're independent, we're cynical. But if he really needs a favor, well, you know. At least on Yom Kippur, you show up. Why? Yom Kippur he really needs. So, if you're bringing God down to earth, that's not a religion. Religion always has to do with getting you to heaven or to a heavenly condition. The future of psychology, which really needs to reinvent itself because it's not doing so well. The future of psychology is if you come to a therapist and you say, I need people to recognize, I need to be validated, the therapist will say, son, sit down. You don't need. Knock it off. You don't need. You didn't ask to be born, you don't need to be born, you don't need to be here. Someone needs you. So stop kvetching. That's the future of psychology. It is so liberating. It's a breath of fresh air. You need to get a job and you need to pay bills? That is so depressing. Because it's not true. God waits every minute. Will you do a mitzvah? He needs it infinitely. Infinitely. And he depends on us. He's vulnerable. It's a completely different picture of life, isn't it? So can you serve God with joy? The only way you can have any joy is if you serve Him. Because to serve Him means realize that He is the one with the need. If you think you're the one with the need, you're never going to be happy. You can get high, can't get happy. Why? Because Because you need. You must. You have to. If you serve God, then you're happy. Because the burden is off of you, and you have the opportunity to do something for Him. So you know why you're here, and it's not your problem. Come on, is that not messianic? You know why you're here, and it's not your problem. It's heavenly. Spread the word. This kid went to yeshiva, Hasidic yeshiva. The studying was not for him. All day with the books, he couldn't handle it. But the first day that he arrived in yeshiva changed his life. You want to hear this? He simply went over to the dean, who was a Hasidic rabbi, Chabad rabbi, and he said, I need to call my mother. First day that he arrived, he says, I need to call my mother. And the dean said, he always talked with his hand. He said, what means I and what means need? Changed his life. I need to call my mother. No, you don't. Your mother needs to hear from you. Get things straight. I need to put on tefillin. No, you don't. God needs you to put on tefillin. Don't get confused. Changed his life. For the better. Just to clarify that. So what do you think? Isn't this amazing? So what's with all the praying? If I don't have needs, why am I praying all the time? 3 times a day, all day on Yom Kippur, what's all the praying? Again, we've always assumed that the prayer is because I need, and I have to plead, and I have to beg God to take care of my needs and to help me with my needs. No. No. It was His idea that we pray, not ours. He needs to hear from us. It makes so much sense. People get together and say, you know what? We should pray 3 times a day. Shacharis, Mincha, Ma'ariv. Excuse me, did you ask God? Does He want you to pray to Him 3 times a day? Or are you being a real nudnik? You're a pest. 3 times a day? I mean, your mother wants you to call home, but not 3 times a day. She doesn't want to hear from you 3 times a day. Then the Muslims come along and go 5 times a day. God is thinking, what do I get myself into here? It was His idea. If He didn't ask us to pray to Him, we would simply be pests. Would He keep knocking on His door? Knocking on heaven's door? Does he want you to knock on His door? Then stop it. Don't be a pest. Oh, I need this, I need... That's not what prayer, Jewish prayer, is about. Jewish prayer is, you want to know how my morning went? I'll tell you. You want to know how my afternoon went? I'll tell you. You want to know about my evening? I'll tell you. If you don't want to know, it's fine with me. I don't care. So what's 5 times a day? How my afternoon siesta went? I don't know. But we can't be the center of the universe and think of God as our personal valet. That's twisted and very burdensome. I don't want to be the center of the universe. You kidding? Got enough problems. Let him be the center of the universe. I'll help him out as much as I can. But I don't want to be the center of the universe. Too intense. So lighten up, stop feeling needy, and take a compliment. He needs you. So if you got a minute, learn something, do a mitzvah, give tzedakah, whatever. 613 choices. A mitzvah for every occasion. And do it with that thought in mind. You created me because you need this? Well, here I am. God calls Avraham and he says, Hinani. You familiar with the word? What does it mean?
Here I am.
Huh?
Here I am.
Here I am. God knows where you are. He's calling you. Hinani means, hey, I'm unemployed. You need something? I'm available. I got no needs. In fact, I was wondering what I was doing here in the first place. So if you need something from me, well, thank you. Now I know. So Hinani, give me a job, because I have nothing to do here. It's so liberating. Thanks for listening. Have a great rest of the summer. I'm back on the road again. So,
Where are you headed?
Chicago.
On the road again. On the road again.
On the road again.
Thank you, Rabbi. Before he has to hit the road, anybody have any questions?
Anybody want to buy a book? I'm a peddler too.
I have a question about Mashiach.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we went out of Mitzrayim, that was us, and God came to us and He whisked us away, So in terms of Mashiach, how much is that going to be like? How much? I guess my question is, how much do we rely on the fact that, or not the fact, but how much do we anticipate that, a similar thing as to that happening, versus, how much is it us reaching out? Is it the same or is it different?
Ideally, the difference is that he took us out of Egypt because we were in such bad shape. The coming of Mashiach will be when we're in really good shape and ready for a whole new way of living. So it's really opposite. And that's why after being taken out of Egypt, we ended up back in exile. Babylon, Rome. Because we weren't really ready. We were in trouble. But Mashiach will be permanent. Because we're not leaving our problems. We're no more problems. So we're ready for the world to be what it is always meant to be, and then it'll never change for the worse again. So it's a permanent solution this time.
I have a question. How would one explain punishment
things we're not supposed to do, when really, if we're not doing, it's not for us, it's for God.
What do we do if we're working for somebody and we break the machine?
Walk away.
Fix it. Does that feel like a punishment? You broke it, fix it. You can't fix it? I'll fix it for you. So, what is hell? Years ago, a student at the university comes running to the Chabad house in St. Paul. He's all in a sweat. He's all in a panic. He says, "Rabbi, am I going to hell?" I said, "Knowing you, probably." He said, No, seriously, am I going to hell?" I said, What is your problem? Why all of a sudden? What is this? He says, "I have a roommate. He's a missionary. He's been after me, telling me that if I don't convert, I'm going to go to hell." So first I laughed at it, then I humored him a little bit. Now I'm worried. Am I going to go to hell? I said, "You didn't have to come running to St. Paul. There's a rabbi at the Hillel. Why didn't you ask him?" He says, "I did." I said, "What did he say?" He says, "We don't believe in hell." I said, "You don't like that answer?" He says, "That's not an answer. If I end up in hell, what am I going to say? My rabbi doesn't believe in this?" He says, "I don't want to know if you believe it. I want to know if I'm going." We're all going. What is hell? We don't ask to be born. So the process of birth is a painful one because we don't want to leave heaven. The soul doesn't want to become attached to a body. Feels unnatural. But after living in life in the body for a while, when it comes time to die, the soul doesn't want to separate from the body. That's hell. So when the soul goes away from the body and goes back to being just a soul, there's a painful adjustment. It's hell. Now it depends, how attached did the soul become to the body? Some people get really grubby, very earthy. And now leaving the body behind is very difficult. Takes almost a year. Almost. Maximum a year. After a year, every soul is back to being a soul, has made its adjustment, and the pain is over. But during that adjustment, it's painful. So who is not going to have to make that adjustment? Some heavenly person who never really got too attached to his body. You know anybody like that? So we're all going to hell. So somebody just recently put it very well. Getting to heaven is hell. That's such a perfect description. That's exactly what it is. Getting there is hell. But where are you going? You're going to heaven. Just a painful little... So is that a punishment? It's a consequence. You get too earthy, you get too earthbound, it's going to be harder to become a soul again. If while you're in the body, you keep in touch with your soul, then the adjustment is not so painful. So is hell a bad thing? How could it be a bad thing? God created it.
It's not very fair. that we have to go through that. We were put in this world, we got attached.
It's not fair. Absolutely not. Somebody said, I did a terrible thing. Is God going to send me to hell? It's not a very common expression. Send me to hell. He can't send you. Because that sounds like he'll stay here, you go there. Well, God is not here to the exclusion of there. So if God sends you to hell, he has to go with you. Is God in hell? Yeah. He's everywhere. And it's his creation. So we suffer from the Christian image of hell, which is pretty evil, wicked, vengeful, particularly forever, eternal. What's the point of that? It's not eternal. Evil can't last eternally, so it's not. So the best way to describe it is getting back to heaven is hell. But you know what? Coming down to earth is also hell. It's painful, contractions, squeezing a soul into a body. And it's painful for him, for God. Because if we go to hell, he goes to hell. So the real reason for avoiding hell is so that you don't drag him with you. But then somebody emailed me a question. If hell is only 12 months, you mean to say that the worst people in history only get 12 months of hell? Like Stalin? Hitler? What would you say?
I'd say they're not going to heaven.
So they're eternally hell. The question is, a guy like Hitler only gets 12 months of hell? No. He doesn't get into hell. Hell is for people who can be salvaged on their way to heaven. He's not. So why do you think he's in hell? He's not. The joke is, if he ever came to hell, everybody else would say, I'm getting out of here. What the hell am I doing with him? No, you have to deserve hell because it's on your way to heaven. Those people who are so wicked and so evil, they're not going to heaven, so they don't go through hell. So what are they? They're gone. They turn into generic energy. They're not a soul anymore. They're not a person anymore. They don't have memories. They don't have nothing. They're gone. That's forever. And that's probably where the Catholics got it from. They don't mean hell forever. Hell is not forever. But gone, yeah, you're gone forever. You're no longer useful. So what becomes of a soul like Hitler? AIDS. He becomes a negative energy. Because nothing can stop existing, right? Scientifically, nothing, according to some, nothing stops existing. It just changes form. So it was a soul with a personality, with a mind, and with memories and so on. But now it's just an energy. So if it's not really, really bad, he can be a tree. If he's really bad, he's a disease.
Is it painful for the disease to be a disease?
No, it's not conscious. It's gone. It's finished.
There still seems like there's like a little bit of, like, I don't know, this is from my perspective, but like justice that needs to be served. Like for the amount of pain that he caused other people, he gets to cop out.
See, but that's the whole point. Giving pain to a person who caused pain is pointless. I mean, we feel good about it. It's like, yeah. But in God's world, what's the point?
There's no destination.
No. Any pain that does exist is part of the process. But if they're not in the process, wait, just give them some pain.
What about the matter in which someone passes? Does that have any effect?
Oh yeah. The way we come into the world matters greatly to the soul. Unwanted children makes a big effect on the soul. And the way we leave the world, every detail is meaningful and significant, or terrible and painful. But that's all part of the process. So if the manner of death was painful, then your hell already began. That's why they say, if you suffer in this world, it's because it'll be better for you in the next world. That also sounds like, what kind of deal is this, you know? No, what it means is if you're suffering in this world, you're already making the adjustment to the next world. You're already going through your hell. To some degree, the body, the soul, never really gives up on its body, even after 1,000 years. The relationship between body and soul is really intense. So, for example, you go to Israel and you go to the grave of Avraham and Sarah. Is it meaningful? You're going to where the body is. Avraham is still connected to his body, so that when you go where his body is, you can contact him more easily? Yes. Soul never gives up on its body. And that's why that body will be resurrected. And the soul will return to its body. So can we end on a happier note? The idea that going to heaven is a destination or a goal, not Jewish. And the expression, he's in a better place now. And they say when somebody dies, they say, oh, he's in a better place now. From that tone of voice, you know it's not Jewish. Jews don't talk like that. If we thought it was a better place, we would say, he's in a better place. That sounds Jewish. He's in a better place now. Well, that sounds so non-Jewish. But it's not true. There is no better place. If you think there's a better place than Earth, you're a potential terrorist. Yeah, you want to go to heaven, right? I don't trust you. There's no better place. If you can't be here, it's not a bad place to go. It's pleasant, but it's a retirement home. Jews don't want to be retired. So for a month it would be very nice. 10 years? 100 years? 1,000 years of retirement? Come on. This is no fun. So all the souls in heaven are waiting for Mashiach because they want to come back to their bodies. They never gave up on them. To their original body. And that's why that body needs to be resurrected. Don't give me a new body. I want my body. So, it's not a better place. And this is not a goal to get to heaven. So being the last generation before Mashiach, we're not going anywhere. Let them come here. We're not going there. We're staying right here because this is the best place. I mean, if we can clean it up.